Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I am your host, Harry Fling. Today's topic of the day is funniest moments in WWE. And yes, only going to be talking about that in WWF, of course, obviously. Goes without saying. Won't be covering any funny moments from WCW or ECW or any other organization for that matter. So, as a lot of you wrestling fans, especially longtime ones, remember, there was a DVD released in late 2001 and early 2002 called WWF's Funniest Moments. It was right before the name change. I have it right here. I haven't watched this in ages. And the funny thing about this one, no pun intended, there was no main menu. It went straight to the video production itself. So it's just like the VHS variation of it. Here's the back of it in case you're wondering. This was the timeline of this goes all the way up to I want to say the summer of 2001, and whatchamacallit, by that point they'd released everything. They'd released the DVD, and it was available for purchase. So I'm going to share with you some of my personal favorite funny moments in all of WWE history. I'm going to get right to it, starting with my favorite of all time, of CEO Austin. This was an episode of Raw from June of 1999. Excuse me, pardon me. Now, how this all came about was right after Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon in character, revealed himself to be the greater power. For many weeks, we didn't know who this was, somebody controlling the corporate ministry. And especially, we thought The Undertaker was somehow the greater power, but there was something above The Undertaker and someone above him kind of making him do all these dastardly things. And lo and behold, it was Vince McMahon. He pulls off the hood of his cloak. "It was me, Austin! It was me all along! Aw, son of a bitch! You all bought it! Hook, line, and sinker!" That's actually my favorite storyline. As a 10-year-old watching at the time, I was shocked because Vince actually had turned babyface, and not because him and Austin were allies, but because they had a common enemy in The Undertaker. And Stephanie had been abducted, and he thanked Austin for saving Stephanie, though Austin didn't do it for Vince. As you know, their history is well documented and their rivalry. So now, fast forward, it turns out Linda and Stephanie McMahon. Now, before I get to that, you should know that in storyline, and I don't know if this was for real, and if it was, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's a little bit screwy here on the timeline. At least in kayfabe, all four McMahons, Vince, Linda, Shane, and Stephanie, own 25% of the World Wrestling Federation. 25% equals shares in the company. Now, we all know Vince was the chairman of the board here, so he's kind of the final say decision maker, as he was until 2022. So anyways, Linda and Stephanie decide to step down as part owners and sell their equal 25% shares to one Stone Cold Steve Austin, making him the official CEO of the World Wrestling Federation. So this is a storyline to further the Austin McMahon angle. That was going on for just about 2 years at this point. So Austin wastes no time in going to WWF headquarters, the old Titan Towers in Stamford, Connecticut. Now, WWE headquarters is still in Stamford, but it relocated across the street from Stamford Station, not in the Titan Towers building. And I just drove by it yesterday, in fact. It's so sad to see it so desolate looking. So he begins the day by walking in through the front building. I've been in that building actually once, as my brother worked for WWE in the auction department, wrote a lot of articles, had wrestlers sign stuff that they wore on TV. Kind of a really fun job, to be honest, and I was happy for him. So, anyways, he goes to see the receptionist working the phones at the front desk. He doesn't like the way she answers the phone, so he tells her, "You should answer the phone like this. Yeah, who the hell is this? And what the hell do you want?" And she actually copies those exact words. And he goes to a board meeting. First thing he does is fire Dennis O'Rourke, who was at the time the Senior Vice President of Marketing, Research, and Development for the World Wrestling Federation. Now, Dennis actually relays these credentials to Stone Cold, who responds with, "Is that supposed to impress me? I hope so. Well, you're fired." "Pardon me?" "You're fired for looking stupid. Now get the hell out of here." Austin wastes no time with a beer drinking contest once Dennis has been fired, and replaces Dennis with the mailroom clerk, whose name I think was Jason or something like that. And Jason joins in, and Austin brings two 24 packs of Busch Light. Basically, it's a last man standing type deal. You have to keep drinking until we're all out of beer. And if anybody drops dead, your ass is fired. And when I come back, I want to see you still drinking. Those are his exact words there. He also, it's also funny when he's talking to the guy who works in IT and computers. He's relaying his credentials, also like, shut it. Okay, that's enough. It's like he doesn't care for these guys. So anyways, I hope he made badasses out of them after that meeting got through. Because we then move into the guy who works in HR, human resources. Scrawny looking guy, kind of talks like this. And he said, okay, he gives him the orientation manual as he did in the boardroom, which is just one of those special magazines with Austin on the cover. And he says to the mailroom clerk, "What's my catchphrase? I just whipped your ass." Well, that's one of his many catchphrases. Now, he said, "I just whipped your ass," just like I said it 2 seconds ago. Austin's like, no, you got to actually show a little more aggression. And then he goes, "I just whipped your ass!" And he gives him a couple beers for that. So now this guy is drinking 2 beers, holding his jacket very casually behind his back. He loosens his tie. He's just walking around as if nothing mattered, not a care in the world, to show Austin where the accounting department is. So he takes him to accounting. This tall guy, very slender in suspenders, shows him the books. Show me the goddamn books. So we see Vince McMahon's yearly salary, Shane McMahon's yearly salary. Vince and Shane are making that kind of goddamn money? Tell you what. Take several of those zeros and put it behind Mick Foley's salary. That son of a bitch needs help with his medical bills. Good for Austin for actually doing that, and I hope they really did compensate Foley's medical bills, as he was in a lot of those brutal matches between 98, 99, 2000. So he changed their salaries, and then the last thing he does is go to Vince's office, the penthouse suite there in Titan Towers. Excuse me. And he has these guys dump manure in the office while Austin pours a couple of beers over it, which I believe was a euphemism for how he feels about Vince. He's like, "This is what I think about you," hence the euphemism. And then the segment ends. It's just the funniest shit I've ever seen at the time, and I might have been much too young to watch this at 10 years old, but the way he just ran the organization, you almost wish you had a boss like that sometimes. Not saying I don't have a good boss or anything, but my job. But seeing the way Austin ran everything, the way he would run everything, makes you kind of wish that sometimes. But, can't get too out of hand or an organization doesn't work in that manner. So now we're going to move on to another moment from March of 2000. This is on SmackDown. Steve Blackman and Al Snow, colloquially known as Head Cheese, go on a blind date. This is more for Steve Blackman than it is for Al Snow. Steve Blackman needed to show his personality. Great worker, legit tough guy, not so great on promos, and not a whole lot of charisma to show for it. So I think that's what hindered his career for the most part. So Al brings him on a blind date. And I talked about this one in my Rewriting WrestleMania 2000 video. They're both wearing matching green Hawaiian shirts, bright denim blue jeans, and matching white sneakers. And Al brings him there just to kind of loosen him up, as you would suspect. And he says to him, at the bar while they're waiting for Steve's blind date to arrive, "Don't worry, you guys are going to hit it off just fine. It's a girl I met from my therapy group." "Your therapy group?" And the girl busts in, Steve Blackman, oh my God, I'm so excited to see you." You can only imagine how the rest of the date went. They go to their table. Al just disappears for a while, and she just starts talking and stalking, bat, keeps going, and Steve just, oh my God, when the fuck is this going to be over? Then Al reappears with a guy playing piano in the background, that song about personality. Oh, personality, oh, personality. I don't remember how it exactly goes or who said it. Al's just standing there dancing like this. "You got personality, oh, personality." Oh my God. The laughter is just unbearable. And finally, Steve leaves his date, and Al joins in, and they talk. Being that the girl's from his therapy group, I think Al and this girl will get along much better than Steve and this girl. So, as they're both a little crazy, as you would suspect. So that's another great moment. Another great, moving on now, we go to Raw from October of 1998. Bang! 316. Stone Cold, obviously upset of having been screwed out of the World Wrestling Federation Championship at Breakdown in Your House the previous September, did not receive a rematch for his WWF title. So Undertaker and Kane actually pinned Austin in a triple threat match, and Vince took the belt and gave Austin the middle finger as he got in the limousine, and the belt was declared vacant for the first time in forever. So one solution Vince had was Austin be the special guest referee at Judgment Day in your house, October '98. If Austin does not raise the hand of the winner of the Undertaker-Kane WWF title match, he will be fired. Austin did not do that, and we had an indecisive ending, as I recall. I haven't seen Judgment Day '98 in a really long time, so I have to go back and watch it, to be honest. But I remember the next night on Raw, the entire roster was gathered in the ring, and Vince declared a 14-man single elimination tournament for Survivor Series 1998 Deadly Game. This was the infamous Deadly Game tournament. Austin, I think, had to threaten Vince to get into the tournament, which is what led to this funny moment here. So basically, Vince was wheelchair bound after having his ankle shattered by Taker and Kane several weeks prior on Raw. And Austin holds Vince hostage the whole night, finally brings him out in his wheelchair and into the ring. Vince had to sell that wheelchair angle for a long time with limping and everything. So did a great acting job, I have to say, coming from a 10-year-old. And finally, he goaded him and threatened him enough that Vince finally gave in and was about to cry. And then he wet his pants. You could see the blatant stain right there. And he's on his knees. And Austin holds a gun. He holds him at gunpoint. Now, in reality, especially in this day and age where we're so sensitive, I don't like guns to begin with, given all the school shootings and violence that's going on in our world. So I stay away from guns. That's just my personal view. And so he comes in with this revolver. And Vince is like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. Okay, you're in the tournament. You got your shot at the belt. And Austin's about to pull the trigger. Bang, 316. But it's not an actual gunshot. It's just a piece of paper that rolls directly from the gun that actually writes bang 316. So there's no actual sound effect. And Vince he just pissed himself. And he's scared shitless in the ring. Austin got what he wanted. And the rest is history. But I'm not going to talk about the tournament. We'll save that for another time. This next one isn't so much a moment as it is a series. Between January and March of '96, we had the Billionaire Ted skits, which a lot of wrestling fans would like to forget about. I was so young at the time. I'd only started watching wrestling in '95, so I was 6 going on 7. While all this was taking place, they'd show these skits on episodes of Raw every week, up until WrestleMania 12, when the Huckster and the Nacho Man had that geriatric wrestling match on WrestleMania 12's Free For All. Billionaire Ted was special guest referee. This was to make fun of Ted Turner in the most merciless way possible. Vince McMahon was the man behind this. Vince Russo even made an appearance in these skits in the boardroom meetings, the Billionaire Ted's Wrasslin' War Room. They make fun of the way, I guess the Southerners say wrestling, wrasslin'. So, Ted Turner was played by this actor, I forget his name, but you can look him up, he's on Reddit. Somebody did some research and did a good job because they found his name. And they made Ted sound like this bumbling oaf hillbilly type character. Huckster here, he's going to face the Nacho Man. And yeah, I'm going to buy new wrestlers. I can't make stars. I have to buy them. And the FTC, who gives a damn what they think about all this? In real life, what was going on was the AOL Time Warner merger. Vince was threatened by the fact, and this is real life here, that Ted Turner was going to have so much control over the media. And Turner, being the owner of WCW at the time in Atlanta, was a huge threat to McMahon up in Connecticut. So this is Vince's retaliation, so to speak. And I think the skits would have been fine had they ended in the boardroom, but then I actually found them funny, and I didn't know what was going on a lot at the time just because of the wacky antics. They had a press conference, Huckster and Nacho Man and Billionaire Ted, which turned into a personal attack about how Time Warner, or Turner's WCW, was costing the Time Warner shareholders billions of dollars in revenue. So he was supposed to be dodging questions. They also made fun of his relationship with Jane Fonda going back many years prior. There's a joke about Hanoi Jane. Jane Fonda lived in Hanoi in Vietnam during most of that marriage. My favorite, I think, has to be the second to last one they did, where Scheme Gene, this is a Mean Gene Okerlund parody. Oh, he actually hated it in real life, Gene did. Scheme Gene held the Geriatric News Center. It was like a news bulletin, so to speak, like WWF Update was. And he was basically promoting the WrestleMania 12 free-for-all match. We're going to give it away for free on the free-for-all. And I understand the Huckster is training for this match. Let's take a look. So we go to see the Huckster training. He can barely get through a simple workout. This is like a 100-year-old Hulk Hogan. And they have all these sounds of him when he's trying to squat. Creaking knees. He falls back when the physical therapist tries to throw him the medicine ball. Now, as a 7-year-old, that shit's funny. Come on now. You can't take this stuff too seriously. It's just comedy, for better or for worse. But then the last one is the least funny because it kind of mirrors Vince, where Ted is in these FTC hearings. He was in trouble with the Federal Trade Commission leading up into this merger. I don't have the full story on it, so please don't quote me. But then they actually end up parroting A Few Good Men. Turner's on one side, FTC's on the other side. Are you trying to put the World Wrestling Federation out of business? You damn right I am! Because you can't handle the truth! I'm in control of everything here! And that's what I want! And then the skits ended, and then finally we get to the free-for-all WrestleMania 12, where, in a way that it probably shouldn't have gone because of it being poor taste, all the characters ended up dying for one reason or another. Huckster and Nacho Man knock themselves out in the ring. Scheme Gene comes in and says, well, Ted, what are you going to do now that your two top stars have, expired? They can just die all they want. I'll just buy new wrestlers. You see, I can't make stars. I have to buy them. FTC guy shows up with a big vest, bulletproof vest that says FTC emblazoned across the front, and he's wearing a ski mask. Well, Ted, there's one star you might not be able to buy. And he looks at him, and billionaire Ted goes, sorry. Ah! Another feeble Turner classic. So long, Ted. Oh my God. So anyways, yeah, they ended as mercilessly as they started, and it's forgotten because of how ruthless Vince was, and I think a lot of what you saw in Billionaire Ted might have mirrored the real Vince McMahon. As I look back at this as an adult now and not a child. Next, we have Booker T's movie audition from August of 2001. This was during the Rock Booker T feud. Rock had just returned from filming, I believe, The Scorpion King at the time. He left right after WrestleMania 17 to go film that movie. And Booker T was jealous of Rock's success in Hollywood. This is before The Rock started billing himself by his real name. And he goes to some studio somewhere. He goes to some office, or I don't know where the hell he goes, but he's going somewhere he goes to a casting director for some movie. Lord Winston Charleston III was this character he was playing. And I remember actually the secretary who worked for the casting director watched the promo on SmackDown, you could tell, because she said to Booker T, first she made fun of him and said, oh, you're the booger man? Like an actual booger snot. But then he says, no, I'm Booker T. It doesn't matter what your name is. Well, it could be Rock was so famous everywhere that everyone knew that catchphrase like on the back of their mind. So, and we get to the casting, and Booker T actually reads the stage directions. I'm Lord Winston Charleston III, the 14th. I don't remember. It's been too long since I saw this skit. And then the very polite, mild-mannered casting director, Booker, those are stage directions. I don't think you're supposed to be reading those. Eventually, this sort of shit continues until he says at the end, Booker, I don't think this is quite working out. Oh, to hell with this. Sucker punched the guy, and the ladies who are in the casting room go, ah! And then he walks out. That's the end of that sketch. This was an ongoing thing that happened on this episode of Raw in August of 2001. Next, speaking of The Rock, here's another funny moment with him when he sings to Vicky Guerrero from January of 2013. This was Raw's 20th anniversary. They just had Raw 1000 in July of 2012, so they didn't want to make too much of a big deal of Raw's 20th anniversary. They do so many of these Raw tribute shows with legends. They did a lot when Vince was around. They don't so much because they want to move past that, so it gets to be overkill. So Rock actually did his sing-along. Vicky tried to interrupt with, excuse me, as she would do in those days. And he ends up singing her a parody of Eric Clapton's Wonderful Tonight. And then I think he does, when he gets to the chorus, the refrain, he goes, and I said, biatch, You look horrible tonight. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. It's so funny. You can tell Vicky's trying so hard not to laugh. Even she knows what's going on here. But she was actually a great performer for the short time. Well, not short time. We actually had her for like good 10 years for the lengthy time we had her. And a lot of people argue she only got the job because her husband died. And yes, that is true. But she really made the most of it, and she drew heat like no other simply by saying, "Excuse me," and she had that evil laugh. I can't do it too well, but anyways, yeah, there goes that. This next moment takes us way, way back because I've been giving stuff from more recent time, if you will. We're going back to 1987, August of 1987, when Ken Patera murdered a promo on Superstars. I think he was talking to the Heenan family. Like King Kong Bundy, Ravishing Rick Rude. Who else was in the Heenan family? Andre. I think Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff might have been there, but he might have turned face because I know he's a face on the Survivor Series team that year with Hogan. So Patera begins talking, and Mean Gene notices how bad this promo is, so he walks behind Patera. Mean Gene always was a straight man to everyone's goofiness there, and Gene had a lot of dignity, which is why he's one of the best backstage interviewers, because he didn't let them talk shit about him, or he didn't take crap from anybody. So Ken Patera, big strong man here, cuts this promo, red-headed stepchild, and then he doesn't have a good delivery. Red-headed stepchild, I'm really going to get you. I'm really going to show you what it's like when we get in that ring tonight, because you'll see, Bobby Heenan, what it's like. You go and run, and you see what happens. And then Gene's just laughing because it's so bad. You have to watch it. Me explaining it's just not going to do justice. You can see me. Gene's kind of snickering, but he's got a high bar. Ken Patera. Anyways, I don't want to spoil it here. Go watch Ken Patera Murders a Promo. It's out there. Next, we go to 1998 again, but in the month of March, D-Generation X, at the time was Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chyna, give this public service announcement on Raw, where they say they're not going to, between the hours of 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., we'll only use the words ass, damn, and hell. However, we will not use the words beep, beep, watch your damn mouth. And then they start bickering in this comedic way. We will not use the words fuck, bitch, shit, or anything else worse to that extent. Now, again, I don't remember all these words verbatim. Most of it I do, but not all of it. So, again, don't quote me on this, please. So then Shawn and Hunter just have this, they start bickering because Hunter actually drops some F-bombs along the way. So, we want to clean up our act a little bit here, and we don't want to say these fucking words. Hey, watch your damn mouth. No, you fucking said that shit. Oh my God. And then this, I think like, what's the name of that famous patriotic tune? Da 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 da. The Washington Post March or something. Shit, I'm forgetting it right now. Let me look it up real quick. It's gonna kill me. I'll look it up later. Don't worry. Sorry. Anyways, this patriotic music plays, and it just adds to the whole effect. So that's funny. All right, give you a couple more here. Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. What a comedic duo. They were modern day Abbott and Costello if you're talking the 80s. They were real life best friends that bounced everything off each other, the energy and the comedic tones and the timing of it all. This one time in March of 88, they went to Atlantic City because WrestleMania 4 was about to be hosted there that following Sunday. So they check in early. Heenan actually doesn't have a reservation, and Monsoon has to apologize to the concierge for Heenan's behavior. And Bobby Heenan somehow gets to stay in the penthouse suite with Monsoon, and I think he tries to steal his bingo chips, and not bingo chips, but his playing card chips. And he tries to work out, but the machine's not working. How far have you gone? Oh, this thing's broke. Well, it says here you haven't gone anything. And then there's some other good stuff, and it ends with Heenan actually pushing Monsoon down the boardwalk of Atlantic City in one of those trolley carts there, and basically has to become his servant for one reason or another. It's an ongoing segment. Watch that episode of Primetime. I think it's from March 21st or whatever. Just type in Heenan Monsoon Atlantic City. They had other great moments, but that one's probably my favorite with the two of them. Last moment I want to give you here brings us to May of 1991 on an episode of Primetime Wrestling. This one, Primetime was filmed in Stamford, Connecticut, and we had a live studio audience, and Vince McMahon was wearing those outfits that looked like he just came from the gym, those, neon-colored sporty outfits. I love the wardrobe there. As ridiculous as people might think, I'd love to work out in clothes like that. That's just me. Sergeant Slaughter and his Triangle of Terror, Colonel Mustafa and General Adnan were unexpected guests on the show. They had guests every week, sort of like a late night talk show, except this was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And the Triangle of Terror were not supposed to be there. I believe it was Virgil and the Legion of Doom were the actual advertised guests, and they came, they kind of saved the day at the end. But before getting there, Sergeant Slaughter, still furious about losing the WWF title at WrestleMania 7, pulled a Hulkamaniac from the crowd. It was just a guy in a bandana and a Hulk Rules sleeveless shirt, like Hulk used to tear. And he questions him on why he's so loyal to Hulk Hogan, and then he puts him through boot camp, starting with, "Drop down and give me 50!" So after he gives him 50, they drag him to the back where he's forced to carry General Adnan up a set of stairs. This is the backstage area. Then he's forced to clean a toilet with a plunger or unclog it. Then they dunk his head into the toilet. "Yeah, clean it till it shines, till the sun shines there. Put it where the sun don't shine." You can imagine that kind of verbiage coming from a drill sergeant. And then they make him crawl everywhere, and then they quite literally kick his ass as he's in the hallway. They're just bullying this poor guy. Finally, they make it back to the Primetime studio. Virgil and the Legion of Doom save the day and get the Triangle of Terror the hell out of there. Poor guy, but it was just funny. Slaughter was so funny in that character, even though he was supposed to be anti-American. "Vince McMaggot, all these prime-time slimes, those pukamaniacs. Did I give you permission to speak?" Anyways, great stuff. Wrestling has great comedy. If you love comedy, just in movies or stand-up comedians, for that matter, you got to look at professional wrestling. There's some funny moments you'd be surprised about. You don't even have to be the biggest wrestling fan to enjoy this. So anyways, that's all I've got for today. This has been another edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I'm Harry Fling. And until next time, everybody, bye-bye.